Ashes of Creation. This video's title is Harbinger's. Wait, okay. Ashes of Creation's Harbinger update will fail, and here's why. It's a video by no one. We have seen quite a few videos by this no one person before. I'm not subscribed because I'm on my main channel right now, but on my alt I am subscribed, so hey, take it for what it is. It's 1 out of 2 subscriptions, okay? But I wanna preface this video by saying this guy has made a similar video like this, where he said the update would be great. So he's basically split the videos in two, where he's making one video showcasing why this update could be a good thing, and one why it could be a bad thing. I kinda wanna preface that before everybody just starts saying, oh, he just hates the game, oh, he's a hater. He just made 2 separate videos, one on the potential negatives and one of the potential positives. So yeah, let's just go into the video with some open space, shall we? Open space? Open mind.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, and big dogs, of course? How is it going? I am no one, and in today's video, we are going to continue the theme of the content for this week, and we are talking about the December 11th early access. Now, picking up where we've left off from Monday and Wednesday. Monday's video, if you guys want to go check it out, it's 2 videos back from the recording of this one. I basically went through my overall thoughts on the game going into early access, and is this the beginning of the end? Yada, yada, yada. You go get my total thoughts over there on that video. Now, after that video, I wanted to do a thought process that I often do when I'm making a decision on making purchases, when I'm just overall making like big decisions. I like to look at the overall best case scenario, and I also like to look at the worst case scenario, because if there are 2 polar extremes and either one can happen, obviously whatever's going to happen is going to be somewhere in between. And so, am I okay with the worst case scenario happening? Like, am I okay with that happening and being okay with my overall purchase? And that's the thought process I have for the last 2 videos. This one will be, the second one, the negative doomer video. And so, in this video, we're not going to go to the most polar extreme of nuclear winter or an asteroid hitting the Earth or a bunch of aliens coming down to the planet and making us their sex slaves. Like, all that is obviously, well, maybe that's the best case. Never mind. Regardless, I'm looking at the worst case scenario for the project itself that I can feasibly see happening. And so if you are a perpetual white knight, if you are a relentless optimist, and any sort of negativity is going to impact your hug box, I recommend shutting this video off now. No hard feelings, move on. But this is just a thought experiment, and we are going to go to the most negative one. Get some popcorn, let's dive into it. Now, obviously, I can sit here and I can pull up the exact same website that I posted up before, and I can look at all the content, and I can make a video saying, hey guys, this could not work, this could not work, this could not work, this could not work. We all know that, right? Like, we all know that whatever content they come out with may not work right away. It may be subject to change. Things may be up for testing. Like, everything is a moving train. We've all heard this before. And so obviously this is nothing that you guys aren't expecting. That's not the worst case outcome though. The worst case outcome is we've had more of the same of what we've had for the last year. So what we've had is, going back to November of last year, there was a live stream or an interview where somebody asked Steven, like, hey, when is dynamic gridding coming online? And dynamic gridding was one of their live streams they did in the summer of 2024, talking about how all of this large scale PvP and content will work for Ashes of Creation. And now, I am not a software developer. I am not a programmer. I am not an engineer. I watched the video and I was like, okay, cool. If it works, like, if we get good performance, great. Like, I don't care how the performance happens. We just need to have good server performance for large scale PvP. Because the issue other MMORPGs have is you have this massively multiplayer online game where a bunch of people are gathering together, but you don't see everybody because they have to shard the game due to technology issues. So people are in their own instances throughout the world, and it makes the world feel smaller, and it doesn't feel like a massively multiplayer online game. And therein lies the problem with the entire idea of Ashes of Creation. You have this big world with a bunch of people on it vying for different continents, and the servers have to work. Servers have to work on every game. The most negative reviews are when shit doesn't work, and that's justifiably so. It doesn't matter how good your story is. It doesn't matter how good the graphics are, how great the boob jiggle physics are. If the servers don't work, the game is going to fail. And that's where we've been for about the last year now, they have not been able to get dynamic gridding online onto the Alpha 2 servers. And so if you go back and you look from December of last year to now, you will see things getting delayed. You know, we've gotten less and less of a content rollout. Phase 3 got delayed back from, you know, into May, and then all of a sudden it was going to happen in August, and then it got pushed back even further into September. And then even when we did have the rollout for Phase 3, it was more of the same of Phase 2. Like, we weren't getting the entire thing that we've been sold on what Phase 3 is they're going to be incorporating content into the game that we will be able to test and we'll be able to provide feedback on, and developers will iterate and improve on these systems, and that's how the game is going to get better.
I will say, by the way, I have not played the alpha recently. The last time I played was back in Alpha 1, but I've been paying close attention to their updates. I'm watching the live stream every other Friday. Like, when I say every other, it's every now and then when I can tune in. So I'm watching their live streams. I'm also keeping up to date with the Lazy Peon. He's usually doing a monthly, semi-monthly update on Ashes of Creation, talking about all of the things that has been done so far. And looking at this right here as well, the gameplay in the background, they have gotten so much stuff done over the last probably 3 or 4 years. The development of the game has gone really well. People love clowning on this game, being like, oh, the game will never come out, where? I think they've made huge strides. Now, am I really happy about the game not being out yet? Not really, based on the early kind of like expectations they gave us with release dates and such. People are saying the game should be out already, and I don't know, dude. Like, I'm just saying, the game has made huge progress from Alpha 1 to Alpha 2. And the one thing I'm not excited about is that they are launching in early access during Alpha. They should, at the very least, wait until beta, when the game is more fleshed out. Now, I get their point of view. They want to get feedback, and I also give Blizzard, I play Classic WoW, right? I give Blizzard a lot of, like, hate, or at least I try to criticize them, because they don't accept feedback early enough. In this case, at least Intrepid wants feedback early. So I can't really criticize them for that, as long as they're using the feedback in the right way. Getting feedback during early development can be important, by the way, to get feedback on systems and core foundations that the game is built upon.
Like, they're just going to take the feedback and they're going to continue to work to make a better overall experience, which is a great system. But if we can't get there because the servers aren't working, we're just kind of stuck, you know, basically waiting for it to happen. Like, we're basically floating in the ocean waiting for some current to happen, right? And so that's what's been happening for the last year. A lot of players, if you're going to take Intrepid by their words, and, you know, we're going to say, yeah, they're opening up early access because they need more testers. Well, why do they need more testers? Well, there's been a huge lack of content for the last year because they've been working on the server side stuff. And I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to say, like, you know, like, I don't expect this game to come out for another 2 to 3 years. And so any big project, personally, it doesn't bother me if something gets delayed, because something always gets delayed when you make a big project. Like, I helped my parents build a house, and sometimes the most mundane things ended up taking all day that you weren't expecting to have happen. I can only imagine when you're trying to make a living, breathing fucking world, you're going to have stuff that's just going to take a while. But because I have this long-term outlook that, you know, like, whatever happens in, you know, a year or whatever, like, this stuff doesn't bother me. But if your goal is to have testers come in and test your systems, the worst case outlook that you can have is if the server doesn't work. Now, obviously on the PTR, if you guys have been doing some PTR testing, they have had dynamic gridding, and it has worked.
Is that me lagging, by the way?
On the PTR. But
Or
the
is that him
PTR isn't
lagging?
going to have the same server load. Isn't going to have the same server load that Alpha 2 on December 11th will have. It's not going to have the same amount of people logging in. It's not going to have the same type of issues that you're going to have with people gathering in different areas, gathering in Winstead or gathering around this new content that they're releasing. And so will dynamic gridding work at that point in time? And I know some of you are going to come out and you're going to say, well, yeah, that's part of the issue. Like obviously it's not going to work right away. And yeah, of course, like there probably can and will be issues right away. But what if we get more of what we've gotten for the last year? What if it takes a month 2 months, 3 months with everybody on the server for them to finally get the servers up and running? What if the developers have to spend, and this isn't crazy because this is what we've had so far, what if we have another 2 months of dynamic gridding? And now all of a sudden you've brought in a bunch of testers, and testers are like, well, there's nothing to do. They're not working on improving the content like I thought they were because everybody's working on the servers. And all of a sudden, the entire retention issues that you've had for the last year and why you need more testers is going to exist again. And that is the biggest issue that you could have happen, where people are brought in expecting one thing, expecting to be able to test and iterate on systems. Like, obviously, you will have the people that think that it's going to be a complete game and all of that, and that's silly. But even the people.
It's silly, but also at the same time, Intrepid could do a way better job on Steam to tell you that you're buying into an alpha. Because right now, if you look at the game on Steam, it says Ashes of Creation and Early Access. There is no indicator that you're buying into an alpha here, unless you know about it beforehand. And I feel like a huge reason of why you would go into Steam, which is the best platform for discoverability, it's a pretty huge platform, right? So they're probably going to go there for discoverability. In which case, if you're going to get discovered by new people, they might not know that much about your game, and they're not going to start doing a lot of research before buying your game either. So many people, they see Ashes of Creation Early Access, and they think, well, this game right here is basically finished, it's an Early Access, there's some polishing requirement. In no way, shape, or form are they going to go in expecting to be part of an alpha test, and for the game itself to, like, not be coming out for years. So yeah. It is what it is. The reviews are going to be very interesting in December.
People that are expecting an iterative process where you're going to work on different things, the worst case outlook you could have for them is, hey, there's nothing to test. There's nothing to test because they haven't changed anything because they're too busy working on the backside stuff. And so when it eventually does, I do have faith that the developers will get everything online eventually. I do have faith that the servers will work eventually because we have large-scale servers working on games like Throne and Liberty, where large-scale PvP battles can happen in MMORPGs. I do think it will happen. I just don't know when that will happen. And so my concern is that the early access of bringing in people for testing and development gets wasted. It gets wasted because there's nothing to be iterated on because everybody's still working on the servers. And so you brought in a bunch of people to sit around and wait. And so that would be the unfortunate part. Now, obviously, this is the worst case outcome for the developers and for the project as a whole, is everybody's just waiting, because a lot of long-term testers are going to be like, well, I don't even want to come back to it because it was so bad. I'm going to wait until it's way better. And now you don't have people to, when you do get things online, you don't have people to iterate on the systems. You don't have people to actually provide feedback on the project. And so the entire point of open development is to have people provide feedback and make the best game possible. As an example, obviously we're looking at, best case outcomes. Baldur's Gate 3 was 3 years of early access open development with iterative processes, and through that they ended up making one of the greatest games of all time. Now, I'm not saying Ashes of Creation will be one of the greatest games of all time because this is a negative video, but the point of open development and being able to iterate is to make a good game that the players resonate with. And if the players aren't there to resonate and work on the system, it's not going to work. And and that is going to have a very severe impact. So, like I said on the video on Monday, I would much rather prefer, and once again, this is me going off of everything. I'm not a developer. I know that there's a lot of stuff that I don't know. Okay. And I'm prefacing this in this video. There's so much that I don't know. That's why I have to look at it from the positive to negative outcomes, because I'm just looking at what has happened and what could happen. And so the developers who know way more than me, they very well could be looking at it like, yeah, actually we have everything up and running. We've had these tests. The next step is to do this. I think we actually can scale this. That very well could be the case. But from my perspective, I have to look at it like this. And so from my perspective, I think it would make sense to open up like the servers, or try to get everybody on the PTR in a couple days or for a week and say, hey, like everybody on the PTR, we're going to have this be a full week of live action testing. Everybody from Lotharia and Shoal, please come in, stress test this as much as possible. Let's see how it goes. And maybe they're already doing that. I don't know. But need at least a week or two of seeing how dynamic gridding is going to work, severely stressed by a bunch of people. I think that would make sense to make sure all that stuff is up and running before you get early access going. And so that's why I advocated for a delay in January. You know, like don't open up early access until January, February. Make sure the servers work, because if they don't work and we don't have a timetable for when they are going to, it's just going to severely impact the game long term. So I said this a lot of different ways, obviously, but that is the worst case outcome. I am a long-term believer in this project being rolled out. It obviously has a lot of work. Obviously,
I'm also a believer in this project, by the way. I really am. It's been through some ups and downs, but I feel like that's every game developer these days. And also, here's the thing. I want to give Ashes of Creation and Intrepid massive props for the communication they're doing. They are doing exactly what I've been waiting and asking for Blizzard to be doing, especially the Classic WoW dev team. I've been asking them for Classic Plus to just give us a weekly update, and not even weekly, just a monthly fire chat chat. Well, just like, I don't know, sitting down, talking to the community, right? At least Intrepid is doing that. They're sitting down on Fridays, they're talking to people, they're getting feedback, they're telling you what they have been doing, what they're going to do. At least they are communicating. This is something that a lot of game developers right now in studios, they don't do. They don't communicate. They make a game, they sell you a game, you consume product. That's it.
Server stuff is going to take a while. I don't expect this game to come out for 2 to 3 years. And so if you told me, hey, what does a game look like 2 to 3 years before it's supposed to be released? I'd say it looks something like what Ash...
Yeah, for anybody who's played World of Warcraft, by the way, if you find yourself... You can find this online, by the way. Try to find a version of the Family and Friends World of Warcraft alpha from 1.5 years before World of Warcraft came out. The last 1.5 years before the game came out, it is unrecognizable. So Ashes of Creation as well, the last 1.5 years before release is where the final, like that's where you make the game. Right now you're developing, you're coding things on the back end, you're making the game. The last 1.5 years, you tune the graphics up, you polish the game, you add quests, you add stories, you add lore. The last 1.5 years are visually some of the most important. What they're doing right now is important for the game itself, but the last 1.5 years, like the game will be unrecognizable in a good way, of course.
Creation looks like right now. It all depends, and I'm going to say this also before I end the video. We can't look at the initial negative reviews and think that it has a long-term impact to the game. You guys can go back, and I'm already doing research on it. I have a video coming out on Monday talking about this, but I've already done it. I've already looked at a bunch of different videos. Nobody is looking back at a game's initial early access reviews and having it make an impact on their long-term decisions. Now, obviously, you would hope that December 11th goes well and like the game is kind of fun and enjoyable and people are like, yeah, you know, it's kind of, you know, there's obviously bugs, there's obviously like things that aren't working very well, but the vision's there. Like that's obviously the outcome you want to have happen. But even if you get bombarded with a bunch of negative reviews, that doesn't matter. What's always mattered for any game is if the developers can take whatever feedback that they've gotten and change and iterate on the game to make something better. If the developers can, the game can turn around and it can improve and it can get better. We've seen this multiple times through multiple different games over the years. And even when there are stuff, when there is stuff identified in alphas and betas.
Didn't we see this somewhat recently with Throne and Liberty? Am I being crazy right now? I didn't play Throne, by the way, but I followed the storyline. And I watched a lot of like Throne and Liberty videos and content creators when it came out. Didn't we see this exact scenario with Throne and Liberty? Where it was resurrected from the dead by, like, it spent so much time in development that people thought it was dead, and then it came back and just, like, took everyone by storm, almost.
that are long-term issues. The issue isn't that it happened in the alpha and beta. The issue is that the developers didn't fix it for the live release, and those same problems crept up for the live release, and people still tested it to find out, only to find out that the game didn't go well because the developers didn't work on it. And so that's the biggest thing. Is Intrepid a company that is going to take the feedback and turn whatever issues they encounter, because there will be issues because it's an alpha, are they going to turn those issues into something more positive and something better, or are they not going to listen to the community and work on whatever they think is best and not take the feedback well and just release a game early? I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to do the former. So that's why I'm long-term optimistic. But you know, we're going to have our bumps and bruises in the road, and this potentially could be one of them. I'm going to end this video here. Thank you for watching, guys. Have a good one.
Okay, that was a good video, by the way. Very good video. I liked it. He has a lot of good takes on Ashes of Creation, I feel like, and a very good content creator in general. I mean, yeah, very good video. I really liked it. I've been following the content of Ashes for a long time. I want to be there on the early access. I might actually be there on day one and play it live on stream. We'll see how that plays out. But yeah, I haven't played Ashes since Alpha 1. So I don't really know what to expect. But I do want to play it again because Alpha 1 was really cool. And I love the mounts they have. I really do. The visuals on the mounts, the way they're moving. And I'm excited for the game. As a long-time Arcade player, I'm super excited, and I hope this game scratches that Arcade itch, because Arcade was a fantastic game, dude, I'm telling you. I loved Arcade.